When I was leaving my manager Harrison's office, I saw an open file on his desk. It was my own performance report, but the numbers were completely wrong. Despite making record sales last month, the report said, "Failed to meet targets." As a 31-year-old sales representative who had been working at this job for 5 years, I knew my numbers by heart. It was clear that Harrison was preparing a fake report to fire me. But what Harrison didn't know was that the human resources director, Rachel, was my college friend. And Rachel had told me something very important last week. Harrison's move would be his downfall. My name is Cameron Walsh. I work as a sales representative at a large technology company in Chicago. The company is called Prairie Innovations Group. I've been working here for 5 years and I'm quite successful at my job. I'm talented in customer relations and I consistently exceed my sales targets. My manager Harrison Blake is 45 years old and has been working at the company for about 10 years. Harrison seemed like a good manager at first, but his behavior changed in the last 6 months. He started constantly criticizing me. He would interrupt me in meetings. He would belittle my successful sales. Last month, I closed one of the biggest deals in company history. It was a $300,000 contract. The client was Highland Manufacturing Company. I had been talking to this client for 6 months, preparing presentations, giving proposals. Finally, I closed the deal. The whole company was talking about this success. Even our CEO congratulated me. But Harrison didn't seem pleased at all. It was as if my success bothered him. That day, I had entered Harrison's office because he wanted information about a new client. Harrison was on the phone and signaled me to wait. There was an open file on his desk. When I saw my own name, I got curious. The file was my performance evaluation report, but the content was shocking. The sales figures for last month were written incorrectly in the report. I had actually made $300,000 in sales, but the report only showed $50,000. Additionally, under the customer complaints heading, complaints that never happened were listed. The most surprising part was the conclusion section. It read, "Cameron Walsh has failed to meet his targets. His performance is below acceptable level. Termination of employment contract may be considered." This was completely ridiculous. I was one of the company's most successful sales representatives. When Harrison hung up the phone, I pretended not to see the file. But my mind was constantly on that report. When I went home that evening, I started analyzing the situation. I thought about why Harrison might want to fire me. Maybe he wanted to give my position to someone else. Or my success was exposing his inadequacy. The next day when I went to work, I decided to be more careful. I started observing Harrison's movements. During lunch break, I noticed that his computer was open. There was no one around. The performance evaluation system was open on the computer screen. I approached curiously and looked. Many employees' reports had been prepared, but only in my report had the numbers been changed. Everyone else's numbers were correct. This was proof that Harrison was intentionally targeting only me. He hadn't touched other employees' reports, only falsified mine. I immediately went to my own computer and checked my sales figures. All my sales were recorded in the company's CRM system. I had indeed made $300,000 in sales last month. There was the Highland Manufacturing deal and 2 smaller clients. Also, the customer complaints were completely fabricated. None of my clients had complained. On the contrary, most of my clients gave the highest scores in satisfaction surveys. Harrison's preparation of such an obviously fake report was a very risky move. If he got caught, he would lose his job. But apparently he wanted me gone so badly that he took this risk. That evening, I called my college friend Rachel. Rachel was the human resources director of our company. We had studied business at the same university and had been friends for 10 years. Rachel was very honest and fair. "Cameron, I can hear the concern in your voice. What's happening?" asked Rachel. "I want to explain the situation, but it's not right to talk on the phone. How about we get coffee?" "Sure. Let's meet tomorrow at lunch." The next day, I met Rachel at Cafe Central downtown. I told her the situation from beginning to end. Harrison's fake report, the changed numbers, the fabricated complaints. I explained everything in detail. After listening, Rachel looked very serious. Cameron, this is a very serious accusation. If it's true, it means Harrison is in big trouble. I'm sure it's true, Rachel. I saw it with my own eyes. So what do you suggest I do? Rachel thought for a moment. First, you need to gather evidence. Photos, documents, everything. Then you can file an official complaint. How am I going to gather evidence? I don't have access to Harrison's computer. Rachel smiled. Cameron, I forgot to tell you last week. Other complaints about Harrison have also come in. 2 more employees complained that he was mobbing them. We were already planning to start an investigation against him. This was very important information. I wasn't alone. Harrison was doing the same things to other employees too. Which employees complained? I asked. Sandra from the accounting department and Tony from the marketing department. Both said Harrison was targeting them. What happens now? First, we'll take your official complaint too. Then we'll start a detailed investigation. We'll examine Harrison's computer and files. This relieved me. I was no longer alone and knew I had support. The next day, I went to the Human Resources Department and filed my official complaint. Rachel had me meet with the company's general manager, Patricia Williams. Patricia was 50 years old, a very experienced manager. I explained the situation to Patricia. The fake performance report, the changed numbers, Harrison's behavior. I explained everything in detail. Cameron, these accusations are very serious. If they're true, we'll terminate Harrison's employment. But first we need to conduct a comprehensive investigation, said Patricia. How will the investigation process work? I asked. First, we'll examine Harrison's computer and files. Then we'll talk to other employees. Finally, we'll have a face-to-face meeting with Harrison. How long will it take? Usually between 2 to 3 weeks. But we'll prevent Harrison from giving any negative reports about you. This was a very important protective measure. Harrison could no longer harm me. A week after the investigation started, Rachel called me and invited me for coffee. Cameron, very interesting things came out in the investigation, said Rachel. What did you learn? We found that Harrison falsified not only your performance report but 5 different employees' reports on his computer. He changed numbers, added fake complaints, hid successes. This was proof that Harrison was systematically targeting employees. What else did you discover? I asked. Harrison also misreported some customer information. He tried to show your Highland manufacturing deal as his own success. This was a very despicable behavior. He was trying to claim the customer relationship I had developed over 6 months as his own. So when will you talk to Harrison? Tomorrow morning, Patricia and I will call Harrison for a meeting. You can also be there as a witness. The next day at 9 in the morning, we gathered in the Human Resources conference room. Patricia, Rachel, me, and Harrison were there. Harrison looked tense but didn't know what was happening yet. Patricia started the meeting. Harrison, we've received some complaints about your management style and employee evaluations. What kind of complaints? Asked Harrison. You're accused of falsifying numbers in employee performance reports. Harrison's face changed. This is completely ridiculous. I always prepare honest reports. Patricia took out printouts from her computer. Harrison, these are screenshots taken from your computer. You can clearly see that you changed the numbers in Cameron's performance report. Harrison looked at the printouts and turned pale. These must be a misunderstanding. It's not a misunderstanding, Harrison. We also found out that you tried to report Cameron's Highland manufacturing deal as your own success. Harrison could no longer defend himself. The evidence was too clear. Patricia continued. Harrison, you falsified 5 different employees' reports. This is a serious violation of company policies. Harrison started, but Patricia cut him off. Harrison, we want you to resign. Otherwise, we'll start more serious legal processes. Harrison bowed his head. Okay, I'll resign. 2 days later, Harrison left the company. The official announcement said he resigned for personal reasons, but everyone knew the truth. Sandra was temporarily brought to my position. Sandra was a much more fair and supportive manager. Now I could focus on my work and feel that my achievements were appreciated. A month later, Patricia called me to her office. Cameron, Thank you for the professionalism and honesty you showed during this process. You had the courage to report Harrison's behavior. I just did what was right, I replied. We want to turn this situation into an opportunity. We're planning to promote you to assistant sales manager position. This was wonderful news I didn't expect. It meant both a salary increase and career development. 3 months later, I was very successful in my new position. Together with my team, we broke the company sales record. The Highland manufacturing client also brought 3 new big clients through referrals. The new department manager, Richard, who replaced Harrison, had a very different approach. He supported his employees, appreciated successes, and made fair evaluations. This experience taught me a lot. First, the importance of speaking up against injustice. If I had ignored Harrison's fake report, I probably would have lost my job. Second, the value of building connections with the right people. My friendship with Rachel was very critical during this process. Without her support, it would have been much harder to resolve the situation. Third, company's seriousness about protecting employee rights. Patricia and the HR department took this matter very seriously and took quick action. I still don't fully understand Harrison's motivation. Maybe my success triggered his insecurities, or he felt his position was threatened. Whatever the reason, preparing fake reports was unacceptable behavior. This incident also changed the company culture. Patricia brought new policies. Performance evaluations are now done with a multiple approval system. A single manager cannot complete an employee's report alone. An anonymous complaint system was also developed. Employees can report their concerns without revealing their identities. 6 months later, I heard that Harrison was working at another company. But I learned that he had similar problems at his new job and left after a short time. I guess some people don't want to change. For me, this story ended happily. I continue to develop myself in my new position. I mentor young people working in my team. I tell them the same thing. Don't be afraid to stand up against injustice. This experience also showed how important ethical values are in business life. Compromising honesty for short-term gains can cause much greater losses in the long run. Harrison tried to fire me by preparing a fake report but ended up losing his own job. Justice always prevails, it just takes a little patience.